Well, hello, welcome once again to Pale Blooms and Beyond. Thank you for joining us today. Do you like the programming you see here and the musicians and artists that I visit with? Please be sure and hit the like button and also subscribe to the channel. Maurice McElroy is an English drummer who has played with a wide array of musicians and bands over his career. During the late 60s, Maurice was in soul and R&B Rhodes Showband, the Freddie Mac Extravaganza 2. He would play with brass rock prog blues outfit Swegas on the 1971 album Child of Light. During 1972, Maurice kept the beat in the Wes McGhee Band and still collaborates with Wes from time to time. Next came a stint with Derek Noy of Jan Dukes de Grey and Noy's band from 1974 to 1976. During much of the 80s, Mr. McElroy spent time with Stephen Travers, survivor of the Miami Showband massacre, and his band Craic. In the late 80s, he played with a couple of Texan artists, Kimmie Rhodes and Freddie Kirsch. From 1990 to 1993, Mr. McElroy was a part of Otis Grand Big Blues Band. And since the year 2000, my guest has been a member of blues band, the Spikedrivers. Well, welcome, Maurice.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me on.
You're very welcome, very welcome. Well, take us back to the beginning. Where were you born?
I was born in Belfast in Northern Ireland, and then we came to England in 1950, I believe it was, very early on.
I was going to say, because you don't have that Irish accent at all.
No, well, two reasons. One, because, we came over here at the beginning of the 50s, so you don't get it. The other one, because my maternal grandmother had insisted that my mother go for elocution lessons based on the idea that a Belfast accent for a woman was not a good thing. So we didn't hear it much around the house.
Okay. Well, do you recall once you relocated your early childhood growing up?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I grew up in a tiny little place then called Fenny Stratford, which we lived, which then kind of got subsumed into a bigger town called Bletchley in Buckinghamshire, which is about 50 miles north of London. Now it is simply a part of the whole city of Milton Keynes. Not really that I recognize it, but I grew up there. I was there till I was 18, and I moved to London.
Okay. Was there music in the household early on?
Yeah, well, my father used to be a drummer back in Belfast in the dance bands. My mum sang, although over here they didn't do anything. That was like kind of strange, really, because I remember one time we went to one of these, I suppose you'd call them like a veterans parade type thing. It was at the Shuttleworth Aircraft Collection, and they were doing a World War II thing. Took mum along, and we were walking past a hangar, and there was a swing band playing, doing all the Glenn Miller stuff.
Yeah.
She looked up and she just went, "Dorothy and the Blue Shadows." And I went, "What? What are you talking about?" She said,
Yes.
"Dorothy and the Blue Shadows. The Blue Shadows were your dad's band. I was Dorothy."
Oh,
All right, okay.
all right. It came to her. She remembered.
Yeah, it just kind of went,
Yeah.
So yeah, but over here they didn't do anything. Never really found out why that was.
Yeah.
I didn't get any genuine encouragement from them to be a musician, but I didn't get objections. So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
there was stuff there that we don't know about and still don't. So
Okay. Well, perhaps you got the gene from one of your parents or both, or
yeah, I reckon maybe somewhere along the line.
yeah. Well, can you remember one of the first singles or albums that you got?
Yes, I do. I bought a single by a band called The Outlaws.
Oh, yeah.
It was
Yes.
called Crazy Drums.
Yes.
And many years later, I was told, and you know what? I still don't know the truth of this story, that the guitar player on that particular single was a very young Jimmy Page. It was a wild guitar solo. I mean, up to that point, I'd never heard anything remotely like it.
Right. Well, Richie Blackmore was in the Outlaws.
Ah, okay. Maybe it was him and I'm just getting mixed up, But anyway, I mean, I really liked that. I mean, for a long time, I wasn't that interested in songs.
Mm-hmm.
I would go, I would go out and I would be looking for instrumental music and so
Yes.
on. Although that changed a bit because when I bought my first record player, I got it secondhand. The local guy sold it to me, and I went down to pick it up, and it came complete with two LPs. One was Tops with Lonnie, which is Lonnie Donegan, and with most of Lonnie Donegan's greatest hits.
Oh,
And,
yes.
yeah, and the other one was the soundtrack to South Pacific.
Oh, okay.
Right. For a while, I could sing most of those songs.
Could you? Okay.
I could. I wouldn't want to try it now, but yeah, it was, because I mean, you must know yourself, in those days you had a record, you played it.
Yes,
Because
yes.
there weren't that many of them,
That's right. I think it might have been, I don't see where Jimmy played with them. I think it might have been Richie you were thinking about.
Yeah,
But
it could well have been, but it was just the way that
yeah,
that thing, it just leapt out of the thing,
yes,
And then
yes.
of course, obviously, you get later on, you get things like, Chuck Berry.
Yeah.
I mean, I got Run Run Rudolph. Do you remember Run Run the Christmas
Oh, yes,
one?
I do. Yes, I
Yeah,
do.
yeah, yeah. I had that. That was great.
How about the Shadows?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, I mean, I never did get to see them live, but anything that they were on, we watched. They were the band
Yes.
to emulate, to listen to.
Yeah. I've heard how influential Hank Marvin's playing was.
Unreal. I mean,
Yeah.
just absolute. There was a book written over here. Is a book called 17 Watts. And it was written by a bass player called Mo Foster. Mo was a still around, a session guy, did loads and loads of them, And it was all about the early days of rock and roll, but particularly to do with guitarists. And just about every guitar player that he ever spoke to was influenced somewhere along the line by Hank.
Yes, yes. Well, were the drums the first instrument you learned to play?
Yeah, I never really got on with melody line instruments. Started like most people, you play triangle at school.
Yeah, yeah.
Once a triangle player, you're there. But then I decided that's what I wanted to do, and it kind of happened like I think a lot of people then. There was a guy we knew at school. He had a guitar, so he wanted to form a band, but you needed all the other instruments.
Yeah.
So somebody said, "Well, I'll play bass, and I'll play rhythm guitar." So okay, well, I'll play drums, and that's kind of how the instruments were chosen. What was needed. So I got a couple of drums, and just basically just played along with records the way most people do. I tried to find drum lessons. I mean, it was weird. My dad didn't really show me very much. He didn't seem too keen on it. So we backed off from that. And we were a small town. So trying to find a drum teacher was pretty well impossible. I mean, the nearest guy anybody had heard of was in Bedford, and that was like quite a train ride away. So, you know,
Yes. Well, you mentioned the triangle in school. Did you guys also have to learn the recorder?
we didn't have to learn the recorder. It was at our school, it was mostly the girls who learned recorders and the guys hit things.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I've heard that story a few times about the recorder.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how the distaste for it, You know,
Yeah, it's still sometimes now, even now, the sound of a recorder can kind of make you just shudder a wee bit.
I've always had a problem. I still can't whistle to this day.
Yeah,
So I think I would have had a problem learning that or a
yeah.
flute or any kind of wind instrument like that. I think I would have. Yes. Well, can you recall one of the first live shows that you attended that you went to?
Right, not a name. I think the very first live show I attended was some guy who had a guitar and some kind of amplifier. I can't really remember him. I do remember that the very first proper not concert, because they weren't concerts, everybody played for dancing in those days. The local dance hall, the Wilton Hall, that was where all the bands came. And the first show I ever saw there, I was about 14, and I went to see it wasn't Dave Berry, Mike Berry.
Yeah,
Singer called Mike Berry, and his band, I believe, were called the Outlaws at that time, and it was a different Outlaws.
it was a different one. Yes.
But that was, and I saw him, and then that was where I kind of went. I mean, the ones that I really followed for was the Hollies.
Okay, right.
Really, I mean, I would see them anytime they would go there. But I also got to see, oh God, we saw, you know, Small Faces play there one Christmas. I missed out on the Rolling Stones because I was doing a gig somewhere else. They wrote
Oh,
all the records for that hall. Johnny Kidd and the Pirates.
oh yes, yes.
Went to
Another,
see them with the I said
yeah.
the luminous ship backdrop.
Oh, was that what that was called?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, you know,
Yeah.
it didn't exactly light the place up, but you know, when they turned the lights off, you could just see this galley, you know, this pirate ship
Uh,
on the backdrop.
yeah, Johnny Kidd
Um,
shaking all over. What a
yes,
song. What a
that's
song.
right. Yeah. With Clem Catini on drums. Now that
Right, right.
there is a drummer, you know.
And he's still around too.
He
Clem.
is. He's in
Yeah,
his 80s now, I
yeah.
believe.
He's played with everybody. Yeah, he has
Oh
played with
God,
just
yeah.
about.
I mean, the guy just wonderful, absolutely wonderful player.
Right, right. Yeah, he must have had some kind of connection there with Joe Meek too, because he was in the Tornadoes. Played.
Yeah. Well, the thing was that what I think, and you know, listening to people and talking about him, the whole thing about Clem was that he kind of clocked early on that what you needed to make music work was a really good feel.
Yeah,
And that the clever stuff, nice though it might be, really wasn't that necessary.
yeah, yeah.
You know, if you got it, you nail that feel, you've got it.
Right, right. Just like Ringo, just like Ringo.
Well, it's like them. I mean, and I was looking back from a friend of mine who got it from Texas, you know, and he came back with Wes McGhee when after his first things, and he said, you know, he said in Texas, he said the basic deal is you got a good song and a good feel, everything else is icing.
Yes,
You
yes,
know, nice to have, but we don't necessarily need it. And I think Clem got that because that was the thing that everyone I spoke to who played with Clem would be the first thing they'd say.
yeah.
What a feel.
Right. You know, a lot later on when you get into the prog and that kind of thing, those drum solos, those are nice, you know, but you know,
Yeah.
a little too much sometimes, you know, a little too heavy-handed, you know. So, like you
They
said,
did lose me. I got to say, there was a time, you know, like everybody, I used to think that, you know,
yeah.
the sun shone out of Buddy Rich and that's how it had
Oh,
to be. And then all the other guys came along. Not anymore now. I mean, I really kind of go for what I would call the Steve Gadd approach. As I heard him in an interview years back, and someone said to him, you know, you're in the studio, how do you go about deciding how to tackle a track? And he just said, well, the first thing I do is work out what is the simplest way I can play this song and make it sound good.
yeah, I like that.
Then
Yeah, yeah,
producer wants a little fill here and there, come in, ask it. Yeah, we can do that. But the first thing has to happen is you just get that feel, get it sounding right, and then you can build from there.
yeah,
So I kind of went backwards. I was a very, or tried to be, I actually didn't do it very well. Tried to be a kind of complicated drummer when I first got started. Whereas in my later years, I've gone seriously minimalist,
yeah, yeah.
you
Okay.
know.
Yeah, kind of went, like you said, kind of went backwards. Yeah,
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 it's
yeah.
started appreciating the songs more. That was the other thing as well. I really started appreciating lyrics and so on. So that does really kind of change the way that I think about music, and I think it does most people.
Yes, yes. Well, you mentioned some influences. Are there other early influences or bands for you?
Yeah, I mean, the Animals
Oh,
was like they still give me shivers now when I listen to them. It is that sound, you know. They don't sound like anybody else. So yeah, I used to see them a lot. There was a band I always liked. They were never like a big sort of influence, but um, the Undertakers.
oh,
Uh,
yes,
that
yeah.
they
They would
had some
dress up
because there
like
was that
under.
whole sixties thing, and I got to meet them once, and they were really cool because they had mohair Cuban Hill boots.
Oh, yes, yeah. That was the one with Jackie Lomax, right?
I
The
believe so.
Undertaker.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I
yeah.
mean, again, I didn't remember, but
They
they
would
did
dress up.
just
They
a
would
little
dress.
bit. That was the one that they had, just
Yeah,
a little bit.
yeah. They would,
Um,
yeah. Dress up. They would dress up as like actual Undertakers. They would. Yeah.
yes,
Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. They would.
Uh, yeah. Go
But
ahead.
those were really the early ones, and in a strange kind of well, it's not strange at all. It's just music. But um, early on, I got into people like Dave Brubeck.
Oh, yeah.
I had again because of the money situation. You didn't have a lot of their records, but I had this EP called Sounds of the Loop, which I just adored, and it's got Unsquare Dance on it.
Okay.
And we were like, "Oh wow, listen to that kind of thing." Um, and there were lots and lots of bands that coming along at the time. When with the bands like the Artwoods, you'd suddenly see them. We did a thing with a band called Creation. We
Oh,
opened for them. A young man opened for them. That was just bizarre, man. I mean, the guy was doing a painting while they were doing the set.
right.
You know, that was their shtick, as it
Yeah.
were.
That was
Um,
the song Painter Man. I think that's the
yeah,
name.
that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Painter
Yeah.
man,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he'd be up there and he'd,
And he's paid
splashing stuff on and
while they're playing.
splattering the stage, cleaning up
Yeah. Yeah.
afterwards. Um, but yeah, that was the beginnings of it. And then, I mean, I was a big Jimmy Smith fan for a while.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The Cat and all that. One of the bands we used to go though to see an awful lot, and I met him a few years later. Sadly, no longer with us. Zoot Money. Zoot Money's big roll band
Yeah.
was just one of the live bands to go see. There was his end of things, and then you got Georgie Fame and the Blue Flames with the kind of slightly more sophisticated, slightly jazzier kind of deal. But that was really, what most of my listening was in those early days.
Yeah. Well, what was the very first band you were a part of?
It was a band. We were called the Addicts. Addicts, as in ADDIX.
Okay.
I don't know where we got. Oh, I do know where we got the name from. It came out of Mad Magazine.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, yeah. Somebody found it somewhere in Mad Magazine, so we decided that we were going to use it, and we were it was a school band, you know. We did covers, we played local gigs, and so on. Although looking back on it now, we did actually okay for a band doing that kind of thing. When we went I mean, I suppose it would have been about round about 64 through to 67, something like that. And we did some quite, quite big gigs. We did a place called the Boston Gliderdrome, which was out in Boston in Lincolnshire. It was one of the really, really big dancers. All the big acts played there. We were on with Crispy and St. Peter's,
Oh, wow.
and this was it. They had a late addition to that bill. There's a guy called Billy Fatboy Stewart. Now he'd come out of nowhere. They'd released a single over here, did this vocal pyrotechnic version of Summertime. Have you ever heard that? If you haven't, just look at you. You just got to hear it to believe it, right? Anyway, they put him on the bill, and he was touring. And he had this backing band that they'd got called Bluesology. They were backing him.
Oh,
And
yeah.
the keyboard player for that band was one Reginald Dwight, who
Yeah.
then morphed into Elton John. When time came to leave school and people were moving on and I was going to move to London, I wanted to come up that, and then that was the end of that, because I mean, to begin with, I started working up in London in a music store in the West End in Shaftesbury Avenue. But I was commuting every day on the train, and you can't do your rehearsals anymore. You're not getting home till 7. So yeah, it all kind of faded away, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Do
here
you,
we
you
are.
the guys that were in that band, did they go on to play in any other bands? Did you know?
Well, no, I don't think so. The two of them, I don't think did. I think that was their kind of fling, and they stopped it. One of the guys, John Denton, is a guy that I have known. I first met John in well, what you would call kindergarten, infant school. We were both about 5 years old. He didn't play professionally, but he still plays. He's currently he lives out in where is it? Worcestershire, which is out towards Wales. And he has a band called the Fez, homage to Steely Dan.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean the guys are good.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he just never did it for a living. But yeah, he was our bass player in the Addicts, and yeah, we still see each other now and again.
Okay. Okay. Well, circa 68 to 69, you're in Freddie Mac Extravaganza.
Yep.
Two. There was a one and a two.
There was a one and a two. We became the two. I say we. What seemed to happen was, okay, the story there. Freddie Mac was in his heyday. He was world number 21 heavyweight boxer.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yeah, 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 he was. And we saw all the paperwork. I mean, the whole thing. And I think he fancied himself as a bit of a James Brown. And he put this road show together. So we had a varying size band, but round about 7 pieces was the norm. We had two go-go dancers, one solo dancer, one male vocalist, one female vocalist. And he'd had this band running for a while. Don't know what the story was. His MD was a trumpet player called Buddy Bounds. We knew him in Rose Morris, the shop that I worked in. He used to come in and hang out. And then I was leaving there, and he came in one day and he said, "Oh, there's this gig going. Freddie wants to change his band, the whole thing." So we fetched up for this audition in a club in the West End, and it was like there was one person for each instrument.
Hmm.
That was like, oh, okay, fine. So we all got the gig.
Yeah.
So don't know what the deal. We didn't go into the details of what had happened. We were like, okay, fine. So yeah, we did that. But it because kind of it was the tail end of the whole Soul Show thing. Um, I mean, I believe I was told that we were one of the highest paid unrecorded bands working in the UK at the time. But people didn't know what to do with Freddie. The problem was Freddie himself didn't sing.
Okay.
Right, he kind of danced and he did emceeing, if you like, introducing people, bringing them up, and we'd gone for. He got us into this talent competition, and it was for a TV thing, and basically, I think we blew the house down. I mean, but the guys were looking and said, "Well, we can't have you on because there's no focus. You've got, two singers, you've got all these dancers, you've got the band. There's no actual, we can't point the camera at Freddie and go, hey, it's Freddie Mac, because he's not doing very much." So that kind of didn't work out. And then he was more than us. I mean, we were just the band, but we used to go around in two vehicles. We had two Ford Transits, one for the gear, one for personnel. And the roadies would take those home. And coming home one night, I think we'd been to a party, I think, and we got slammed into. We were crossing Oxford Street. Guy was speeding, hit the side of the van, spun us round, wrote the van off, and I think
Hmm.
that was the point at which Freddie's management company decided to write him off as well. There were a couple of guys that used to, I don't know whether they ran it or they just worked out of the Flamingo in Wardour Street. But they
Okay.
just decided, no, we kind of, enough is enough kind of thing. And I think the market for those big road shows had pretty well gone at that point. I mean, it was mostly bands. They were becoming much more blues based.
Yeah.
We were getting over here, and you were starting to get the creeping edge of what became prog rock. So our
Yeah.
kind of thing. I mean, we did one of the last gigs we did, which would have been in '69, and it felt very strange. We were on a festival with Deep Purple,
Okay.
and we had to go on stage after them.
Oh, that's strange. After.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that just, I mean, we did okay. It was, but no, that was those really, really strange things
Yeah.
to actually do,
Yeah.
hard act to follow that.
That's right. That's right. I wonder who arranged that show.
Absolutely no idea, but it was real. We were there.
Yeah. Well, Swegas, were you there at the beginning or did you join after the band was formed?
Swegas was an interesting one because that came the tail end of Freddie. Okay, the bass player with Swegas, Roy Truman, he, as his sort of, I suppose his day job, I guess, but he was one of the roadies for Freddie Mac. We were coming to the end of it, and he said, "Look," he said, "there's this band I play for. We need a drummer." He said, "We're a rehearsal band." It wasn't saying we've got this band, we're going to kind of, make it. I'll try and make it. So we got this rehearsal band. It's down in Waterloo. We rehearse in Waterloo regularly. We're, trying to do, brass arrangements and all of that. Would you be interested? So I thought, yeah, that would be, that would be a kind of cool thing to do. So I started going down there. To be perfectly honest, I think I was really a wee bit out of my depth on that one. I mean, these guys were a lot more sophisticated musicians than I was. But we did that, and then this company, Trend Records, came along with Barry Class, and said, "Yeah, we'd like to do something. We'd like to make a record." So, yeah, all right, we did. So we did that, and we did a tour, um, and that was my time with them. I mean, they did another album after that, and they had another drummer. We overlapped, myself and Bill Hogan, who became their drummer. He was to be fair, the guy was the sort of drummer they needed, and I wasn't that quite up to that. I did okay, but um,
Do you have any memories, recollections of that album, Child of Light, or recording?
um, yeah, well, I have one somewhere at home. I remember that we made it at Tangerine Studios, which was a studio above a row of shops over in Kingsland High Street in Dalston. And it was one of those albums that was being made on the quiet by two of the guys that worked there. So I there was a bit of a row at one stage because it turned out that quite a lot of the sessions we did there, they weren't booking through the studio. And that sort of kind of upset people. But it was really, really, I'd never really done any recording before much. I mean, I'd been with people and we'd done little, um, you know, we'd done demos for people, but this was like trying to do something, and they were introducing us to things like the technique they called studering, which was where you have two tape recorders running and you offset one against the other, and you got that kind of the sort of sound that you remember Richie Coo Park. So
Yes.
bass is Ichiko. There's a kind of it's a sort of thing that goes across it. Well, that was that was the
Oh,
sound.
that's the kind of sound.
So
Okay.
that was the kind of thing they were going for. And the first time I'd done anything that had the level of, we did loads of percussion overdubs and stuff like that. So it was quite an experience to actually do it, and it did sound all right, And we never made, it wasn't a hit, but yeah, it was all right, that album. I think some of it might well start, to be honest with you. I haven't listened to it in a long while. And when I got your email, I was very tempted. And then fortunately, I think I discovered that my one copy of it is hidden away somewhere in some storage stuff. So maybe,
Okay.
you know what, you got to be honest, Greg. Sometimes revisiting things is not quite what you want.
Right.
It definitely comes under the heading of you had to be there.
Yes. And a lot of guys I talk to, I'll say like, would you like to go back and re-record that? Were there things that you would have done differently? And I think a lot of them say, no, it was of its time. I wouldn't want to revisit that, but then there are a few that say, yeah, I think I could have tweaked this a little or, done
But
this.
do you not think you always can? I
Yeah.
mean, this is the thing, different people I work with over the time, people who work in TV, they do documentaries and all of that. And I remember one guy saying to me, he said, look, every time you get to the end of a production, you've always had some other ideas that would make it better. You've got to decide where you're going to stop. Some point you have to stop. And sometimes that can be as simple as we've run out of money.
Yeah.
We can't have another day in the studio. That sort of thing. I think myself, that sometimes having that framework and having those limits produces the end result you really need. Because I've known too many people over the years who they've had unlimited time.
Yeah.
And they disappear down a rabbit hole.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes what has started off as a really powerful piece ends up being, what you could blanded out.
Yeah. Right.
Just
And the other thing about, like you said, you have some structure limitations, it's good because if you don't, you'll be second guessing yourself forever.
yeah, all the way down the line. And we always know it's even to this day, despite the way that recordings have changed, we just always did this with Spikedrivers. You learn it, you learn that song, you go in and you play it together there in the room. And then look at what you got. And then maybe you might want to change the vocal on it. You might want to change anything. Oh, that guitar, whatever it is. That you try and capture that spirit that got you there in the first place. And work from there. We had a hugely eye-opening experience. We were very fortunate. I mean, I am jumping a bit ahead, but we were very fortunate with Spikedrivers to have as our engineer and co-producer Phil Brown.
Oh, okay.
Is a legend in his own lunchtime. I mean, this is the man who has just done about everything. And on one of the sessions we were doing, he brought these things and he said, you got this? And he said, they just picked this up. And someone had given him a CD and it was straight off the original 24-track masters from some Jimi Hendrix stuff that had been recorded, and he said, listen to what happens when you pull things out. And he would be pulling out a cymbal crash and there was this dreadful guitar note behind it. And he went,
Yeah,
take
right.
felt really good, stick a cymbal over it, no one will notice.
Yeah.
And he's right,
Yeah.
capture the magic and you can repair that, you can darn the socks, can't you?
Yes, yes. I've seen so many documentaries where they'll sit behind, it's older recordings, but then they'll sit behind a mixing board, and they'll say, okay, like you said, well, let's just take this piano out of this part, or let's take this, section out, and play it. And it sounds totally different,
Yeah.
when they do that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
and
But
it
which we
does.
all, everybody knows. I think any musician
Yeah.
is that sometimes it's the accidents that get you what you want,
Right, right.
you know.
And I prefer more organic recordings anyway,
Yes,
that just kind of
absolutely.
that are not overly dubbed to death, or remixed to death. I like that because it captures the energy of
Well,
the band.
there's that, and then there's the other thing that that everybody seems to be doing now, but is that whole thing of you go into the studio. I mean, I did it recently for a friend of mine. I playing some Irish drum, the Baron.
Yeah,
They've been learning to play that over the last couple of years, and he said, "Oh, I'm doing these tracks, and can you come in and do some Baron for me?" I said, "Yeah, okay, fine." So I listened to the track at home, and I learned some bits, and I went in and I said, "Right, I've got this selection. I got three things I think might work." So he said, "Okay, play them." So I played one. I said, "That's one. I think we could do it." Okay, yeah. And he said, "Right, we'll record that." So we did that, and then did the next one, and did the next one. And I'm waiting for him to say, "Okay, I want that one there," and then go to there. And he just said, "Okay, fine. Well, we've got those. We'll just cut them in and out when we need them." And I went, "Oh, well, I'm done then." "Oh, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, it's fine. We got it. It's recorded. I mean, I'll put some of that in one of the choruses, and I'll put that one." And I'm thinking,
yeah.
wait a minute, why am I not playing with the thing?
Right,
You know,
right. You know,
but
I
it's
know
what a lot of people do.
that's the downside to me of the home studio recordings now. And
Yeah.
I know it's convenient and all that, but and a lot of times they come out and they sound like the band was in one room together, but they weren't. And it's pieced together like that. I don't know. I mean,
When
it's
it works, it works.
yeah,
When it doesn't, it doesn't. I mean, the whole digital thing
yeah,
had a lot of people. And when we're working with Phil Brown, Phil would always try and get a studio with a Neve desk in it, and say, right, well, this is the sort of sound we want. Digital is very, very cold and all the rest of it. But even he would say now that there's a lot of things coming through, and you can warm it up and you can make it sound. And in practical terms, using you know 2-inch tape now. I mean, who makes it? And it's cost you an arm and a leg anyway.
right.
It's not practical. But yeah, I guess it's horses for courses. But I think you have to go back to the original thing that we mentioned earlier on, which is a good song and a good feel. You can work with that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the basis right there. Exactly. Well, around 71, you played American bases in Germany. What
Yes.
what took you there?
Um, Hey, work. When it really came down to it, it was okay. Back in the 70s, there were a series of circuits that for musicians to work on. So over here we had things like for covers bands, you'd have the working men's club circuit, which had built up after the Second World War, and people would go to those, but they wanted live music. Um, then you had the bands that were kind of trying to make it seriously. There was the college circuit. Um, that's where all the big bands came up, the Who, people like that. Then they were all coming through that. But in Germany, you had this big circuit of American bases, and they would usually have an enlisted men's club, an NCO's club, and an officers club. Most of those clubs, there was two types of work that you would get. One was you would go to a particular base for a month, and you would work in one of those clubs for a month, 5 nights a week, and do some really, really long hours. Fortunately, I never ended up doing that. The band I went over to join was, again, it was a soul band, which was kind of why I got asked to go do it. Two guys from the American Air Force who'd married local girls and stayed there after they'd demobbed, and we would do what we would be called floor shows. So you would go and you would do one night in a club, and then you would move on to the next one, and so on. And there were bases all over Germany. I mean, there were a lot of them. So we were working for, what's the American, I think they called it American Special Forces.
Okay,
They were
okay.
based out of Munich. That was where it was, and they did all of it. We turned them down, but we actually got offered a tour of Vietnam.
Oh, okay.
It was like, you know, rest and recreation areas, just like in Apocalypse Now, so I've been told.
Okay.
But our band leaders went, nope, we ain't gonna have one. No, thank you very much, because it was
Right.
very much on. I mean, this was the thing, you know. A lot of the bases in Germany, you would get guys either being shipped out or shipped back. It would be a staging post for them, and yeah, it was 71, you know, with all the bells and whistles that was going on with all of that in 71. I mean, you
Yeah.
go to places like, remember we did one time, and where is it on the map? Oh, it's here. And you look at the map, and it's like it's near the Czechoslovakian border, but all it's got is yellow and black lines across it, and it just says Forbidden Zone.
Yeah.
Going, oh, we're playing there. Yeah. How do we know how to get there? Oh, the guy gave us directions, you know.
Right.
We got lost. I mean, I remember that. The fog came down. We got lost in the Black Forest.
Did you?
And we were about to give up. We'd been there for hours. And then we heard this noise, man. You've never heard anything like it. And there were lights coming over the trees, like you thinking, well, think the Encounters of the Third Kind, right?
Yeah.
That's the sort of vibe. And this
Right.
thing came out of the night, and it was basically an army half track. They'd sent it out to look for us, you know.
Yeah.
It was the
That's
only way we found the club. They led us back, and we hung out, got something to eat, and went home because not very many people had made it.
right.
It was foggy.
Right. Right.
But it
Yeah.
was work. This was the thing. It was a really good um it was a really good training ground.
Training.
You
Right.
know, you got to do the shows.
Yeah.
Occasionally you would get to work with other people. I remember one of the gigs that we did over there, we had Rufus Thomas
Oh,
was
really?
was on the was on the same show, and we shadowed. Oh man, it was so sad. We shadowed the James Brown band round Germany. We were always one day late or
Yeah.
one day early.
Oh, were
Never
you?
got to see them. Like, always just off, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't meant to be, was it? No.
No, it wasn't. And we so wanted to see them. We so
Yeah.
wanted to see him, you know.
Yeah. Wow, what an
Yeah.
experience
But
over
it
there.
was good. It was good fun. And we ended up the last 2 weeks of that tour was in Berlin, in a civilian club,
Okay.
in the heart of Berlin. And again, being in Berlin at that time was very, very interesting. We did a couple of tours, you know, not to like touristy things going through to the east.
Okay.
Um, for guys our age, because we were in our 20s, you know, it was a real eye opener.
Oh, yeah.
It really was a very, very different view of the world to the one that we'd been taught in school. That was for sure, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I've talked to a few that played during that time period in the Eastern European
yeah.
countries, and over there, the Soviet satellites, and
Hmm.
how there was one they played and they had actual armed guards there near the stage,
Yeah.
and just eerie, like surreal kind of experience. Yeah.
It was. I mean, Berlin was really surreal like that, on in the basis that there was you were in a city that was governed by four military powers, and yet it was the one place in Western Germany where you could go to dodge national service.
Yeah. Right.
And then you had all the people wandering around looking like spooks, you know. So it was kind of, well, are they spies, or is it a double bluff? Maybe they're looking like spies, but they're not really spies, but maybe they really are spies, but they figure that if they really looked like spies, we wouldn't think they were spies.
Yeah. That's right.
It was things like
Yes.
it
Yes.
was it was very, very strange, you know. You got the checkpoints and so on. I mean, we figured we went through on one, and I reckon they were putting on a show because we were in this Berliner bus. It was the Berliner tours used to do them. And you go in this ziggy zaggy thing where the bus has got to go really, really slowly around all the things so they can't charge it. And we had to stop, and they came on and they searched the bus, and then we were just sat there. And then suddenly all these bells started going, sirens started going, and these guys with the green helmets and the guns, and they're all running around the place. And then right next to the bus, like right at the side of the bus, They lifted this big metal door in the floor, and then everybody run down the floors, and then they went off. And then one of the guys in the band went, "You not get the feeling this is like feeding time at the zoo?"
Well, how did you meet Wes McGhee and come to join his band?
Okay, I met Wes. It was after one of those trips. We were Trend Records was run by a guy called Barry Class, and he was real. He was a caricature old school management type. You know, he'd run record stores and then they'd gone bankrupt, but he always seemed to have a Rolls Royce around the place and that kind of thing. So he had signed Swegas to a deal. And it turned out that we were being personally managed by him as well as being managed by him with the band. In other words, basically he owned us. That on paper, that was the thing. And I think Wes had approached him with some songs, and he needed a drummer. I was no longer with Swegas, so they said, "Well, you know, do you want to meet him?" So I went over to meet him, and we hit it off. And so, you know, 50 years later, we're still friends. So
I was gonna say,
cool.
still play with him. Wow.
Yeah, when I get the chance. Sadly, his health is very bad now. He has quite severe COPD.
Okay.
And you know, he's got a load of songs. He wants to do another album. Myself and all the guys that were doing it, we are just ready to go whenever he says. We'll do whatever it takes. But I don't know. I'm not at all sure we're going to anymore now. But yeah, that was how I met him, and then we had a very intensive couple of years, particularly 1972. We did a lot of gigs up and down the country, but he was moving very much towards the country end of things.
Oh, okay.
And it didn't at that time. I've changed my mind since, but at that time that wasn't the way I wanted to go. So we parted company just before I joined with Derek. But yeah, we did a lot of gigs. We did a lot of them up and down the place. We did a lot of miles. That's for sure. It was a 3-piece.
Okay, 3-piece. Okay.
Just a 3-piece.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I've heard that story too before. You know, if you have a 3-piece band, it's kind of more beneficial. There's fewer band members to fight with, right? You just have 3.
Well, there is that. The other side of it was when we first started to play together.
Yeah.
We would gather. The place I lived, the kind of we call a bed sitting room. I suppose you'd call it a studio now.
Yeah.
Anyway, where I lived was kind of central for the meeting point, as it were. And because more than a few times I found myself sitting there, and Wes would be there, and our bass player Mick would be there, and I unconsciously I would still be waiting for the other guys in the band because I hadn't played with bands that were much less than 6-piece up to that point. And so I go, "Well, are we going to go then?" Yeah. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. We're going to go. You know. But yeah, it was that was it. Again, a very intensive year. I think there is actually somewhere there may well be some concert footage of that band because a woman that he subsequently married, Maysoon Pachachi, is an Iraqi woman. She was at the London International Film School, and she was studying there for their end of term thing. They decided they wanted to do a documentary about a band, and they picked us. So they showed up. They filmed a load of things. We were doing a lot of work on the pub rock circuit in London, and they filmed us quite a lot at the Tally Ho.
Oh, okay.
In
Yeah,
London.
I enjoyed that pub rock when
it was good. We did have one really strange experience there though, because they had people thought it was a funny shaped room. The stage was you think about an L shape with like the big square room at one end and then this bit that came off it. And the bit that came off it was where the stage was. So the audience were mostly looking at you kind of like on the diagonal.
Okay.
And there was a door in front of you that went out into the street, and there was a door there that went out into the car park. And they were filming from over this side. And our bass player went, "Oh, look, it's Batman coming in." And the door just opened, the one right in front of us. This guy came in and he got a balaclava and a scarf wrapped around him and all the rest of it. And then he just went up the IRA and rolled a hand grenade into the room.
Oh, are you kidding?
Right?
Really?
And we're looking at this, and the
Uh-huh.
audience are looking at the film crew, thinking,
Yeah. Is this part of it?
come
Yeah.
on, this is just part of the thing.
Yeah.
Wes was out the door. I mean,
Yes.
whoosh, he was out one side with anybody in the audience standing in front of him was out in the car park with him. And then one of the film crew, this guy, I think his name was Peter. Peter was a vet. He was an American guy, and he'd served his time in that. And he walked over and he just picked it up and took it outside and put it in the gun.
Did he? Wow. Wow.
Yeah, I know. Well, he said it hadn't gone off after 4 seconds, so I knew it wasn't.
It's not going to. Okay.
You know. And then we got the whole thing of, oh, maybe it was a World War II thing and someone took it from their dad's, I don't know, whatever. Yeah. No, it turned out it was a real one, but it was just that when they ship them around, there's some contacts you have to put in to arm them.
Okay.
The guy that rolled it in didn't know that, so
didn't know that.
It wasn't going to go off. But I mean, it's stuff that goes through your head when you're looking at that is a bit weird.
Yes.
My main concern was, bugger, the drum kit's not insured.
That's what you thought about.
I mean, seriously, like, and there was somebody else said, I was looking at it thinking, I wonder what it looks like when it goes off.
Yeah. Oh no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to know
that. It's just, it's not real because, I mean, we're in Kentish Town.
Right.
And we're at a gig. Why would that be real?
Yeah. Right. That's what you're thinking,
Yeah, that was it. But yeah, it was great. I mean, it was well, as I say, the thing was, although we kind of party company and we went out, we still hung around with each other and did a lot of stuff later on. I mean, it was Wes that got me into the Freddie Kirsch thing. It was Wes that got me into the Kimmie Rhodes thing. All of that is that same connection.
Okay. All right. We'll talk about how you came to play with Derek in Noise Band, in his band.
Yeah. Well, that one was, I hadn't got a band. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was looking through the back of Melody Maker, who's advertising for drummers, what's out there. And I saw this advert. And I thought, okay, fine. The audition is in a place called the Pied Bull in Islington. I'll go along. So I went along and I listened to it. I hadn't a clue what I was listening to. I mean, not an inkling at all. I'd never heard anything remotely like this. I've got a guy in front of me who has a voice that will cover 5 octaves, right?
Yeah.
You can hit a low note that stops speakers working, and you can hit high notes that only birds hear.
Right. Right.
And I just hadn't heard anything like it. And he was looking for a bass player as well. So there was a whole bunch of people coming and going. And I don't know quite when or why, but I just got to a point with this and I thought, I want this. I'd never really done the audition thing before and I was never very good at them. I thought, no, I want this.
Yeah. And
I just stayed. That was basically it. I think I probably got the gig out of sheer perseverance rather than any kind of ability, So he went, yeah, okay, fine. So that was one of the most intense kind of musical periods for me, because the amount of rehearsing we did was phenomenal. I'd never done anything like that level before. And, I mean, sometimes we would spend 4 or 5 hours learning a section.
Okay.
And then when we played it, we discovered it lasted 30 seconds. But then it was the days of bands doing really, really complex arrangements, you know. Yes, were coming along and people like that. So, you know, all of this was, you know, really, really the thing.
Yes.
It was the thing. And he had, I mean, he'd got the full-on thing. We'd got a management company. There was an agency there. So we had the backup. So like we could go into a rehearsal room for a week at a time. Just turn up every day, 10 o'clock in the morning, rehearse through till 5 o'clock in the evening, you know, go home, have tea, come back the next day. And do it again. And we had some incredibly talented people working on our behalf. I mean, we had two photographers. One guy was a guy called Mickey Slingsby. Mickey Slingsby used to do if you would like people like Sotheby's and so on, their catalogs, fine art.
Yeah.
He would do a load of that work. And then we this other guy called Hag Haggis. Hag is a real photographic artist. And he would do the things where, except he was doing them with, people would do it with Adobe Photoshop now.
Yeah.
He did it with film. And
Oh,
he just, I mean, he's worth Hag Haggis. Look him up at some point and check the guy's photographs because it is, the work is phenomenal. And they were there to help us out. So we had all this stuff going on around us. But in the end, it didn't take. They record companies were really not interested in it. We went round everybody, well, you know, the management people took us round everybody.
Yeah.
And you know, after a couple of years, I think it was getting difficult for Derek. He didn't like it in London. He'd come down from Leeds, didn't like London, and he decided that he would move back there. But in fact, he ended up going and living in Scotland.
It's gone. Yeah.
His wife Fiona, who I still talk to now and again. I mean, they've split up, but I still talk to her now and again. She used to play percussion in the band.
Okay.
She wasn't a percussionist, but she would learn anything. And she would learn it well enough that you could rely on it. I mean, like if you didn't know where you were, because I mean, there's say complicated arrangements, and sometimes you'd have people. I had a guy come up to me once after a gig, and he just looked at me and said, "How do you know where you are?"
Right. How do you how do you
How
how do you
do you know where you are? Yeah.
how do you get your bearings? Yeah.
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 But
Yeah.
and then, so anyway, he
Yeah.
went up to Scotland. He went up to live there. Every now and again, because the manager, a lovely man, sadly no longer with us, called Norman Lawrence, he's an Australian guy, and it was absolutely genuine guy. He was so nice, and sadly, cancer took him in the end. But he looked after Pink Floyd's finances.
Okay.
Via that, we used to get access to their studios in Britannia Row. We did a lot of recording there, which is like a pretty amazing thing when you think about it. You know, where are you recording today? Oh, we're just down, you know, Brit Road,
Right.
the Floyd thing. We did a lot of stuff there, and there were people even after Norman had sadly gone. People would say, no, we need to get this recorded. We need to do something. So that was where the next, the Strange Terrain album came from.
Okay, right.
Okay, so that kind of happened there. So in a sense, Noise Band didn't exist at that point. We had all of these recordings that we'd done in different studios, Chalk Farm studios, Roundhouse studios. I mean, down in Worthing, I mean, all sorts of places. We'd done all these different things. And so the photographer, Mickey Slingsby, said, I think there should be an album. He got talking to Nick Griffiths, sadly, another one who's no longer with us, but Nick was the main sound engineer at Brit Row at that time. Okay, fine, let's do something. So Derek came down from Scotland in chunks, as it were, 2 weeks here, 2 weeks there, so on. Started recording things. I played drums for him. Then Nick Griffiths decided that they wanted a different drummer and a load of keyboard players. So that all happened. And then a bit later on, Derek came back and said, I'm not happy with the drums. Can you come back and put the drums on again? So I went back and I put the drums on again. I'm still not convinced it's all me.
Okay. Okay.
I'm credited with it. Derek says it is me, but I mean
Uh,
there are things there where I think, well, I would have played something that sounded like that, but I'm not sure I did,
yeah.
whatever. And then it sat. Nobody wanted to do anything with it until Cherry Red Records came along.
Yeah. I was going to
And
say.
then they decided they
Yeah.
wanted to put it out,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And that's my go-to label, Cherry Red, because
yeah, I
they
can
they
believe it. They I don't know,
they
they
they,
like some
they,
researchers.
they resurrect a lot of those,
Yeah, they
the
do. I
stuff,
know. I
and a lot
know.
of the compilations too, various artists. That's how I pick up on a lot of bands. But I have that copy. I think it is the Cherry Red Strange Terrain. I
Well,
haven't.
he's the only one.
Yeah,
But
it has
to
some
the best of my knowledge, it is. I know
yeah,
Derek was saying that he had, because he started teaching guitar up in Scotland. And he said that one of his pupils' fathers came in one day and said, "Oh, I've got your records, Jan Dukes de Grey, Mice
yeah,
and Rats in the Loft."
yeah.
And he went, "Bloody hell, how did you manage to find that?" He said, "Oh no, I got it on CD."
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Derek went, "It's not on CD."
Yeah.
So he looked, and it turned out somebody had picked up on it, and
That
they
that
put it
must
out. And then the
that,
same sort of thing happened, funny enough, with Swegas. I
yeah.
noticed when I was, because I will be honest with you, because of my memories, I decided to Google Swegas and find out who the people were I played with, because I couldn't remember their names, and came across CDs which we'd
Mhm.
never done, but it seemed a Spanish company.
Yeah.
They put them out. I mean, they're out there. That's great.
Yeah.
And so that happened with Derek. Mice and Rats in the Loft came
Right.
out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody put a CD out.
And that one track off of that is the sidelong track. It's the whole one side of the album,
Yeah,
Sun Symphonica. Yeah, it's like
yeah, I know.
18.
Derek was a bugger for that sort of.
It was like 18
But
minutes. Yeah.
the big one that went for the noise band was a track called Doctor Dark.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
And that's on the Strange Terrain album,
It is.
and that one definitely is me. There is no question.
That's
I
you.
think that actually was added
Yeah.
to, because you've got one of those deals, because they got the bonus track thing on.
Yes, that's what it is.
Well,
Yes.
I think you find the bonus tracks come off of a lot of demos that we did,
Yes.
whereas the bulk is the stuff that was recorded, particularly there at Brit Road, because that's the one with all people like Pete Lima on it, and
Right.
Eddie the keyboard player, and all of those things on it.
That that
But
is an
yeah, that was the big one there, Doctor
yeah.
Dark, big
Dark.
symphonic stuff, and
Yes. Yeah. And another one, Free Flow. I don't know if you played on that one, but that's another track off
yeah,
a bonus.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a title I remember. Don't ask me to sing it to you.
Okay.
It ain't gonna
Well,
happen.
with Noise Band, you
Yeah.
released a single, a cover of Love Potion #9.
Yes, we
Yeah.
did. That was oh God, talk about having like odd little forays to the left, as
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Trying to think of the guy's name now. There was a guy who worked. He was with one of the big publishing houses, and he heard Derek, and he really, really liked the voice, but he really, really hated the songs. I mean, his thing was, we don't need a whole bunch about seagulls' claws, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mike something his name was. It may come to me as we speak. But he said, I want to try this guy out. I want to, the band sounds really tight. It all is really good, but I think you need to be more commercial. So he came up with a bunch of songs which were all published by them. And so Love Potion #9 was one of them. Another one was Donna. You remember Donna?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Donna,
Yeah.
all of that.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Right. So anyway, so he did that, and we went into Command Studios, which was in the West End.
That's what. Oh, wait, before you continue, Donna, 10cc.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, you know who I just talked to yesterday? Jonathan King.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, who
Yeah.
founded UK Records. The first two
That's right.
albums
And he
from
was
10.
the first one that did stuff with 10cc.
Yeah,
I
exactly. So we
know.
talked about that a little bit. So
Yeah.
interesting doing the correlations and the common threads that I find. Go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, I bet. Anyway, so we went into Command Studios. We did Derek's arrangements of these songs. And Mike didn't really like them. They weren't, no one was keen on putting them out. It was almost like Derek had decided that he wasn't interested in the pop end of things.
Yeah,
And so he would just do something that no one would accept.
right.
He would either do it his way or it wouldn't get done at all. But there was an eye, I think, to sort of having them say, no, we can't put that out, but we will do something of yours. And it just didn't work out that way. Worth a shot, might
Yeah,
work, you know. And
right.
again, it was, I mean, it was good. It was a good learning exercise because, you're working in a top end studio with people who really do know how to make hit records.
Yeah, yeah,
And you got to learn from that.
right, right. Yeah. Well, in the late 70s, you were involved in community theater.
Yeah.
Yeah. What were some of the shows you
Oh, we did some great show. The very first one I did was in a small theatre that was starting up in Woolwich, the Woolwich Tramshed, and we put on a show called The Great Smitho. And it was an original show, written by the people that were putting it on. Not very successful. I think Woolwich wasn't ready for its own theatre. We just didn't get an audience in, so that one didn't last very long. Then I got asked to do, which was a really interesting show. The guy called Rick Lloyd. Rick Lloyd was the MD, keyboard player, and composer for most of the shows that I did. He was working a show up at the Leicester Phoenix Theatre, which was called The Lucy Show. Now, The Lucy Show was a show, it was a mime show set in a circus based on Beatles albums. All the music came from Beatles albums, and all the characters were taken from that.
okay.
So you had Rita the Meter Maid.
Yeah, oh, all right.
Right. She was Lucy's mum. Lucy, of course, Lucy in the Sky.
Yeah.
Okay, and so on. And the story was Lucy runs away from home. She falls off the high wire and dies. And the show takes you back to the beginning. And we had a guy. Well, do you ever watch Downton Abbey?
I have a couple of times, yeah.
Okay. The butler in Downton Abbey is a guy called Jim Carter, very, very fine actor. Jim Carter was the ringmaster in this show.
Oh, all right.
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 Jim did a lot of circusy stuff. He had some really, really good tricks. But when I first met him, he was on stilts, and he's a big bloke anyway,
Okay.
and he had a top hat on. And he came out onto the stage under this archway. And he's like, wow, like that, because I'd gone up to see the show. What had happened was they'd got another drummer, and they had these big archway thing that they built, drum kit way up on top, other musicians down the next levels.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
drummer had adjusted part of his kit, forgot where he was, stepped back to admire his handiwork, broke his collarbone.
Oh,
Hit the
man.
deck. Yeah.
Oh,
So I ended up being called in to do the last couple of weeks of the show to get it through. So we did that. That was a great show. I really, really enjoyed that show. No dialogue. It was just all about, miming and clown tricks and juggling. And I mean, because Jim Carter could do wire walking, he could juggle, he had loads of props. And then I got called into a show at a place called the Albany Empire, which is in Deptford, in Creek Road in Deptford. It had been the meeting hall attached to a building called the Deptford Fund, which had been set up for like a welfare thing for women on the streets back in Victorian days. The theatre group took over the meeting hall called the Combination, and Jim was a member of that. So we did a show there called, mostly they would do what was we termed in those days agitprop. There was normally a political element to whatever the show was. But this particular show, the first one I went there to do, was called A Night at the Vulture Club. And it was essentially a show where all of the people in it managed to get to do their party pieces.
oh, really?
So
Okay.
the whole theatre was laid out like a nightclub. And Jim was one of the bartenders. And in fact, when the audience first came in, before the show started, they could go buy drinks from him. It was like a real bar. But then
Yeah.
the show would start, and then he would become a character,
Oh, a character.
in the thing. And he had all kinds of tricks. I mean, he had a series of tuned wine glasses that he could play tunes on, and he would have these pint glasses that had false walls. So it looked like he just emptying a pint in one.
Yeah.
All that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Later on, because his film career kind of came out of that. He was,
Ah,
I think he got offered a part of the vet in a remake of Black Beauty. And then the rest, as they say, is history.
yes.
I mean, he became the
Yeah.
actor that he is. But yeah, we did a lot of that. We did one show based on George Orwell's 1984.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah, called East.
Mhm.
And we did a show called One Gun Salute, which was about the founding of the National Health. We did one about comics, the way that comics portray people and so on. And we did the one that really kind of sticks is we did this one show about racism. It was called Restless Natives, and it was a sketch-based show, what you call a review show. So you got little vignettes of things going on, all about the same subject. And that proved so popular that one of the far right groups in the area burnt the theatre down.
Oh, did they?
Yep,
Yeah.
they set fire to it one night and
Ah,
and,
wow.
and burnt it down. Um, Absolutely backfired because the place was rebuilt and open again in 22 weeks. And I mean, I felt to me like the whole of the community just dived in.
Yeah, just got.
People were offering, come and do a gig here, we'll raise some money.
Right.
Builders would turn up and go, look, we got
Yeah.
some windows. Is it any good to you?
Right.
I mean, it was.
It's something like that sometimes sparks,
Yeah, it really
right.
did. I mean, even the local villains. And I mean, there was
Yeah.
one pub down there that was kind of known where you could go buy your own watch back for a very reasonable price, if you knew who to talk to. But no, they were putting on,
Right.
they were putting on benefits for us.
Yeah. Yeah. A tragedy like that will
Yeah,
get people up, to
yeah,
say,
it was. It was, I mean, I really enjoyed it. That was kind of like really the last one that I did there.
yeah.
Um, but it was I still think about that as kind of one of the happiest times of your life. It sounds like you're being a bit, well, anyway, but I really, really enjoyed it. I really like working in that atmosphere. Um, I learned a lot just as a musician and performer, doing that, watching the way that when an actor was putting on a costume, the character would be emerging as the face paint went on, as the coat went on, and so on. And they went from that person who just wandered in, and now they were this character.
Yes.
And everybody, the thing about the particularly community theatre at that time, I don't know whether it even still exists now, is that nobody earned any money. There wasn't any money. You were struggling to keep these places open. So you, at ours at the Albany, the actors and the musicians were just paid a flat wage, same amount of money everybody got.
Yeah.
And you got called in when you got called in, and we would normally do a 6-week turnaround. You do 6 weeks of a run, but then you'd be maybe working 3 or 4 weeks before that, putting it all together.
Yeah.
It was a great thing to do.
Yeah.
I really wouldn't have missed it for the world.
Right. Well, your memories are very sharp. Maybe not the dates so much, but the memories of the events are very
Some of the events, yes, because they're the ones that really hit home. They really kind of go, this is the reason I do this stuff, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Now and again you find one, it just hits you,
Yeah. Well, what took you to Dublin in 1980, around 1980?
That came out of the Albany.
Okay.
We had a band in the Albany called Rough Edge, and it had been formed for one of the shows. It was performed for a show called East, but it was a pretty damn good band, And there was a guy who Patrick, his name was. He a fiddle player, and he'd worked in an earlier show. He was from Dublin, and he was over there. He was always talking about it, and the band wanted to go. And now I wasn't going to go over initially because I was working with another friend of mine, and we got into this thing of that it was that people had just started making their own records. It was just a possibility, So we were talking about doing some stuff with him. He's a singer called Baz Knight, and I was going to be working with him. But the drummer that the Rough Edge got to go to Dublin decided he didn't want to do it.
Oh.
So they said, look, can you come over just, till we find somebody? It's just there's an opportunity here. So I went, yeah, okay, fine. So I went round and I told everybody, I'm going to Dublin. I'm going to be gone 10 days, maybe a fortnight. I'll see you when I get back. Anyway, 4 months later, I come back to London. Dublin's a hard place to get out of. Ireland's a hard place to get out of. I mean, you go and tell people, I booked my ticket, going on Friday, No, you can't go Friday. Why? Well, your man's having a party, so can you not move it till Saturday? Well, I'll try, this is what was going on the whole time there, It was it was quite a thing. And one of my big claims to, well, it's not a claim to fame, but I made virtually the front page, a picture of me for every Irish newspaper published that day. We got asked, the Boomtown Rats were going to do a concert at Slane Castle. And this guy said, look, they need people for security and you get to see the show. So I went, yeah, okay, fine. The band said yes, the local hockey team, there was a whole bunch of us. So we went along. And it wasn't that well organized and well done. And the crash barriers that they put up had started to come down. So there was a group of us, we were banging scaffolding poles into the ground to hold the barriers up. And I was wielding a sledgehammer. But I was also wearing this red, it was not actually a baseball cap, it was a ski cap. It was a red peaked cap. And it obviously caught everybody's eye because the next day in the papers, every page, every photograph there was me in the cap waving a sledgehammer, banging it in.
Do you have copies? Do you have copies of the papers?
Yeah, I have some stuff somewhere at home.
Okay.
It was, it was like people were coming saying, have you seen these? It was all in the major papers, but it was a great time. Again, it was for me, it was good because all right, I'm born in Belfast.
I was going to say you went back to your roots, kind of in a way.
Yeah, kind of. But
Yeah.
what it did for me as well was make me realize that there is actually a difference between the North and the South in terms
Yeah.
of temperament and so on.
Yes.
But I really enjoyed being there. That was how come it took me so long to get out. I mean, the guy I
Yeah.
was working with had to come and get me in the end.
Yeah.
It
Well,
was just things that you
yeah.
could do. I decided I wanted to have a look at the family name, maybe see if I could trace it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wandered into Trinity College, and this guy said, "What do you want?" And I told him, "Well, oh, yeah, yeah, okay, fine." Took me up to the reader room, sat me down at this desk. He said, "Right, this is actually Professor So-and-so's desk, but if he comes, tell him I said it was okay." And then he went off and got all of these books up. And I'm thinking, and I kept saying, I said, "Look, I'm not a student. I'm not a PhD student or something
Yeah.
like that. I'm just me, and I just want, yeah, no, it's fine. It's absolutely fine." And they would just, I don't know whether that would happen now, but it happened
It,
back in 1980.
it did back
It
then.
really did. People would just, it was a lovely place to be. It was a lovely place to
Yeah.
be. I'm really pleased that I got that opportunity.
Right. Well, how did you meet Stephen Travers? Uh,
Travers, I met here, funnily enough.
oh, okay.
It
Okay.
was that it wasn't to do with Dublin itself.
Okay.
Okay, came back from Dublin, and I was doing just jobbing work, working men's club circuit, the odd Irish gig here and there, that sort of thing. And I met up with a guy called Peter Mahan. Mahan had written a play called Snakes and Causeways, which was about a band coming over from Northern Ireland, and he wanted to put it on at a little theatre up in Hampstead, and they needed a drummer, they needed a band. So someone had suggested me. I said, yeah, I would do it. And it was just a drum gig. I mean, I did actually get some dialogue in it, but only because I asked him to write some for me because I didn't feel like just being a drummer. And somehow the connection was there. Said, oh, this guy needs a drummer for Saturday or something like that. And I went along, and it was Stephen and
No.
his lot at the time.
Yeah.
So I did a couple of gigs with them. They said, well, you want to do some more gigs? And that turned into a long stint.
Yeah.
I was with him up until probably 1988, I think, was when
Oh, is that right?
we
Yeah.
parted company then.
Did you get to talk to him about the Miami Massacre show band?
Yes, yeah, we did. I mean,
A little bit. Yeah.
we tried to get the BBC interested in doing a documentary about it because I'd been very involved in housing campaigning, and we'd got a slot in there was BBC Two used to do a strand called Open Space. You could approach them with a story, and if they thought the story was worth telling, you would get a budget and you would get a crew, and you would make a program. Well, I'd done one for the housing thing, so we went back and we said, look, this is this story, and laid it all out. Stephen had got the newspapers from the time, and I mean, the fact that it was him, I mean, to be fair, and they didn't want to do it.
They didn't want to.
No, they backed off from it. So he, I mean, obviously he was disappointed, and I mean, he's doing a lot now because Netflix eventually came to him and they made a documentary, and it won some kind of TV award.
I think I saw that one. I think that's
Yeah, and he has just released a book now called The Bass Player. Came out within the last month. He's doing tours over there, and is going to be doing some stuff over here, kind of talking about it. It was one of those things that was around that he didn't talk about much. Every now and again he would say something, but in hindsight, the way we're really good at stuff, in hindsight, it makes it makes a lot more sense of how he had a tendency to want to really be in control of things. You
Oh,
know, I mean, there was a thing with him. He was saying if a gig was cancelled for a Thursday night, you do not go anywhere or buy a ticket for anything until it's gone 7 o'clock, because he'll find a gig.
yeah.
I mean, I have never worked so hard as when we were working together. We regularly did 5 or 6 gigs a week, every single week, with the peak being 9 one week. We did every single night. We did a Sunday lunchtime, and we did a wedding on the Saturday.
Wow. Okay.
It was,
Yeah.
he was just head down. That's what he did. And it's nice to see that he's kind of eased off from that a bit now, you know, because I think that's a lot of that was what was driving him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, you would see it when you go through that story. Jesus, what a thing to have happened. He was like 18, 19 when
Yeah.
it
Very
happened,
young. Yeah. Yeah.
you know.
Right.
And he shouldn't be here. I mean, he did die 2 or 3 times on the operating table, you know. I remember he told me once a story. He'd gone to a dance or something with the woman who was now his wife. Um, and they were going, oh, you know, so and so, get him, he reads your palm, he's really good, you know. And so they thought a bit of life. Yeah, okay. Do you want to read my palm? And the guy said, no, I'm not really any good at this. You know, people keep asking me, but I'm really not sure I know what I'm doing. He said, no, go on, give it a go. So the guy looked at his palm and he said, look, he said, I told you. He said, I'm no good at this. He said, because if I read this, he said, according to this, you died in the 1970s. So that's a load of rubbish, isn't it? You know. He
Yeah.
went,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, fine. You
Yeah. Yeah.
know.
Yeah. I know. It seemed like I know if I went through a horrible experience like that, there'd be a lot of like looking over, over your shoulder for a while, and any loud noises would
Yeah,
would shake you. Yeah. Yeah. Things like that. So,
yeah, you know.
fireworks going off. Yeah. That wouldn't. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, all those kind of things, you know.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but
Wow.
my God, did we do some work? I mean, and we were bloody good, I tell you. I mean, we did, it was the Irish dancehall circuit, because that was still going on then. I mean, the people went out to dance.
Yeah.
That's why they went, you know.
Yeah.
So we weren't a show band, but we were still doing that.
Yeah.
That was the kind of sets that we were doing, you know. Um, and I mean, I had to stop in the end only because it was just too much work. You know, it just got to a point where I was thinking, um, I don't have too much of a life outside of this, and it's not gonna fall apart. So I actually have to make a thing and say, okay, I've decided to stop doing it, and this is what I'm gonna do. So I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did, you
Well,
know.
yeah. We'll talk. Then came Texas Connection. Now I see why you agreed to do this because of the Texas Connection, Kimmie Rhodes, and
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's right. It plays a big part. And again, that was Wes, because
oh, okay,
because
okay,
within all of this going on, we did odd things here and there with Wes, right?
yeah,
Because he lived literally round the corner from here. So I used to see him and his wife quite a lot. And we do these bits and pieces. Wes had been visiting Texas. He'd been going to Austin quite a lot. He'd been recording there with people. He'd got that was Freddie Kirch was his drummer on a couple of his albums from there, and he headhunted him. It was like, I want the guy that played with Jerry Jeff Walker, you know, and I'll find him, and he did. Um, and Kimmie was part of that. She'd just come down from Lubbock at that time, this
oh, okay,
cute little thing, you know, kind of came down to Austin and was kind of writing a few songs and, you know, trying to get somewhere and all of that. And there was mixing with the Joey Lee crowd and, you know, all of them. And Wes said, well, you know, I'll try and get people over and try and bring people to England. And he managed to we had Elvin Crow and the Pleasant Valley Boys for a short tour.
oh, did you?
You
Okay,
know, we did too. Um, That I don't think London knew quite what to make of this.
What to make of.
So they came over and did that. But then they got Kimmie over. Now, Kimmie still comes over. You know, I mean, back then it was a band. There was a record company here, small one, but really, really took to her. So they put her stuff out here and did, you know, organize gigs for us. So we did actual tours. And you know, Wes asked me to actually be part of that band. And we did a lot. We did there was a big festival. They used to go every year at Wembley at the what I don't know what they call it now. It used to be the Empire Pool. It's not Wembley Stadium. It was the smaller venue, which holds about 7,000 or 8,000, I think, something along those lines. But anyway, this guy would put the International Country Music Show on there every year. We did that 3 years running, and we also went to Europe with part of it. We did one where the double headliner was Emmylou Harris was one, and Jerry Lee Lewis was the other one.
Okay.
And then we did another one with Willie Nelson, because Kimmie got to meet Willie Nelson, and they did a lot of recording together. They'd got duet albums and stuff like that, because she lived just down the hill from Willie's ranch and studio. And they were really good. So I was, by that time, was doing a day job, believe it or not. I'd kind of moved in. I'd started working with the Housing Association after leaving Stephen Travers' band, and it fitted. I could do it because she would be over for, like, say, a couple of weeks, something like that. Well, I could arrange that. So, you know, so I did, and it was really good. And we're still friends. Kimmie and I still talk. She comes over, she comes and hangs out.
Well, speaking of, have you ever been to Texas? Have you been to Texas?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Huh?
I came 1990.
Okay.
Was my first visit. I came over. I stayed in Austin with another one who's sadly gone. I guess we're that age. David Zettner. David Zettner he had been Willie Nelson's bass player back in the day, but he was Kimmie's pedal steel player.
Okay.
For that tour that they did. So I went and stayed with him and his wife. He lived out on Lake Travis in a house that Willie owned. Because, you know, Willie was known for looking after his ex-band members, you know, in that kind of way. So he was living out there. So yeah, I came out, I stayed for best part of a month. We hung out, we went down to Big Bend National Park. You know, had a look round that. I have one claim to fame for that, and I am going to tell this story because it was kind of cool. We were at David's one day, and the phone call comes through, and someone's saying, "There's something going on. Have you got anybody hanging about your property?" So David goes out and he looks. He said, "Well, yeah, there's some guys down the bottom end of it." He said, "Yeah, they're IRS. They're after Willie."
Oh.
Right. Okay. So anyway, this is what was going on. The IRS were closing in, and anything that was owned by Willie Nelson was going to be seized. That was the thing, the studio and the lot. So we're all sitting waiting what the hell's going to happen when the next shoe's going to drop. Anyway, so we get this other phone call, and it's Kimmie. Kimmie says, "Can you bring the rental car up to the studio?" So yeah, okay, fine. So fine. So I drive up to the studio in the rental car. Kimmie's there. She says, "Round the back, bring it round the back." So brought it round the back, open the trunk. She said, "Right, we've got this deal. Explain to the guys in the IRS that not everything in this studio belongs to Willie Nelson. A lot of them are, you know, some of it we own. There's the band that we're recording there and all the rest of it." So this guy, that most of the front door, they won't let us in. But this guy says, "If you can identify it before you come in, tell me more or less where it is, you can take it." So Kimmie is like clearing out anything she can think of. Comes out at one point with Willie Nelson's guitar, right? In the back, get it in the back of the car. Right, so we load it in the back of the car. She says, "Right, take it down to the house." So I drove it down to the house, you know, down the hill, being pretty cool and all the rest of it, thinking, you know, I'm driving a getaway car with Willie Nelson in the back of it here, you know.
Yeah. Right.
This kind of thing. It's like, wow, okay, this is my introduction to Texas with a bit of preaching
Yeah.
here, you know.
Uh,
It was yeah, it was really good. And I visited a few more times after
yeah.
that over the years, but that was the big trip. I got to see
Yeah.
Big Band. I got to, hang out. I got to play at the Broken Spoke.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
the
Well,
kind of the legend stuff, if you like. And
well,
Kimmie took me out around place. We go shopping and buy boots. And
yeah. Well, Willie's still kicking. I mean,
I
92.
know. I
92.
mean, we would go up. I've got pictures somewhere in,
Yeah.
in in my collection there. But he had that Western town luck.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was built for, I believe, Red-Headed Stranger,
Okay.
and it's
Okay.
up on his ranch
Mhm.
up there in Briarcliff, and it is a Western town. It's like you walk down Main Street, but it's like it's the saloon at the front, and you go around the back, and it's the barbers.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all
Right.
these flat front things, and Willie World headquarters was there, which is
Right.
a
Right.
building which was used in, I believe, a film called something like Green Fried Tomatoes at the something cafe.
Oh, okay. It probably was. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it was used for
He's
that
in that.
anyway,
Yeah. Yeah. He outlived my mother. My mother, we were talking at some point that she might outlive him because they're the same age. 93, I mean, 33, born in 33. She died last year at 91, and he's still going at 92. So yeah, that's
Yeah, no, I know. There's the genetic thing there. I
yeah.
always liked, there was a cartoon that would do the rounds here, and it'd be a picture of depending on who'd put it up, it would be either um Willie or it would be Keith Richards.
Yeah, right, right.
Like, okay, the
Exactly. Who's
caption, the
gonna get
caption always was, it's about time the young folks started deciding what kind of world they're going to live for me and Keith.
right. Right, exactly. There's a lot of those comics going around on Facebook and stuff, like Keith Richards, playing back in the 1800s,
Oh
first
yeah,
the
yeah.
first
Well,
you've
there's
seen
there's the
some of
one
those.
Garden of Eden with Keith Richards in the background,
Yeah.
and someone, I think it's Eva saying, who's he? It's like, don't know. He was here when we got here.
That's right. Showing how old he is. Oh,
Yeah.
that's funny. That is hilarious. That, yeah. We'll talk about Otis Grand, big blues band from in the early 90s.
Yeah. Well, that came about partly to do with Kimmie, not to do directly with her, but
Yeah.
um, we'd done a gig. There was a place that a lot of people played in London. Sadly, no longer there. Called the Weaver's Arms. Weaver's Arms was a pub owned by a guy called Joe Giltrap. And the thing about the Weaver's Arms was Joe had got this thing going. It didn't matter if you hadn't heard of the band. If they were playing the Weaver's Arms, you knew they were going to be good. And he would try and get a lot of the incoming Americans and so on. And Kimmie used to play there regularly. We used to pack that place out every time she came over. And Otis turned up there one night, and he came up to me and said, "Hey, motherfucker, right? Um, do you want to play some blues and so on?" And he always reckoned that if he couldn't find a blues drummer, he looked for a country drummer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And time was, he had actually, I didn't know this at that time, but later on I discovered that he used to be pedal steel player,
Oh,
and used to do a lot of that. So I kind of, and he said, would you be interested in coming and having a bit of a play? And I said, yeah. It was not like, come and join my band, I'm looking for a drummer. And then I got a phone call one night saying, we're doing this rehearsal. It's in Croydon, which is like the other side of the city, like
yeah.
vengeance. Why don't you come by? And I said, well, yeah, maybe, if I can make it down there, I will. And I didn't. And then I got this thing. Hey, where were you? And I said, well, I just said I might come by, And he said, well, we were waiting for you. And it was like, turns out he meant come and play with the band for the evening and we'll see how it goes. Okay. So I went the next time and I did 3 years with him after that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And again, he did, I mean, with him, I was still doing the day job.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
he never only did, the thing about Otis was he was a big guy,
Yeah.
right? And he wasn't in truth even then in that great health. So he would never really do more than 3 gigs in a row. Then he would kind of need breaks. And they tended to be, most of his stuff was in Europe. I mean, I just got used to the idea, oh, it's Friday, I'm getting on a plane, and I would go and we'd fly to France and we do the gig in France. And then I would come back and then on Monday I would go back to work again. And, that's how it was for that 3 years. It was a good band, good road band. I mean, good players, and I'd have to say, I mean, on when he was on,
Yeah.
he was as good as any blues guitarist you'd find. He really, really was.
Yeah.
He could just be a bit difficult to work with, but then, some people are. So,
Yeah. Sadly, he passed away 2 years ago now.
yeah,
Yeah, a couple of
that's
years ago.
right.
You know what his birth name?
Yeah, Faoud Bishti.
Yes, from Lebanon, Beirut. He was
Yeah,
born.
that's right. Or Fred, as a lot of people
Yes, yes.
used to
Okay.
used to call him. Yeah, Faoud
Yeah.
Bishti.
Yes, yes.
Um,
Not a lot of Lebanese-born blues musicians, I wouldn't think. You know.
We're not overrun by them, I tell you that.
Oh
Not
wow.
overrun by them by a long way.
Right, right. Well, running a little long here, but I wanted to hear about Spikedrivers. Um,
Okay, well, I mean, Spikedrivers, what can I say? 25 years.
yeah, 25. Wow, wow.
25 years. Well, the Spikedrivers have been going slightly longer than that. Okay. The three-piece, that was Ben Tyzak, who's the main man, Constance Redgrave, bass player, and myself. That lineup has existed for 25 years.
Okay.
We now have, because I had health issues, we now have a percussionist called Roger Nunn. He's been with us 3 years now. I came close to departing the mortal coil back in 22. And it left me not really able to carry stuff. So Roger comes in, he carries, he plays percussion. I just play drums. And it was one of those things constant. By this time, I was no longer playing with Otis Grand.
Okay.
3 years is about your time with him,
Okay.
and he'll want somebody else. So he'd gone to somebody else, but he'd got Constance, became our bass player. She was playing bass for him. And this other friend of hers, a bass player, Ollie Blanchflower, jazz guy, said, I've been doing some gigs with this guy called Ben. He said, I think you'd like him. You should come down and see him. So we went to this little pub in Crouch End. And my first thing was, wait a minute, I've been on this circuit now for 3-4 years. I've not seen everybody, but I've heard of it. Why haven't I heard from this guy?
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense. The guitar playing was astounding. Great vocals, great presence. I'm like, no, this doesn't, Anyway, we got chatting, joined me on that. And then he had a couple of guys that he'd been working with for quite a while. And then a while later, he asked Constance to do a dep. And he'd asked me to do a dep. And then we thought, then he wasn't happy with the rhythm section he had. So at that point, I was doing a house band at a blues jam at the Finsbury Park World's End pub. And we said, right, come down to Finsbury Park. We'll get the guy who runs it to put us all on at the same time. And we'll just see how it goes. So he put the three of us on. And it just worked. And we started from that point of view. And I say 25 years, we're gonna retire it in December this year.
Oh, are you okay?
Yeah, we're gonna finish 17th of December. It's gonna be the final one, because Ben's now going to France a lot. It's where his life is living. Just life has changed, I mean, the way these things do. So we decided that rather than allow it to peter out,
Yeah.
we would make a decision. It's been the absolute highlight of my working life. I have never worked with two musicians that I have felt so comfortable with and so happy with, and who are willing to put in just that extra. I mean, it's not been an easy ride. We've had some serious wobbles on the way, because when you get three people who are really, really obsessive about getting things right,
Yeah.
that can really, you can start getting niggles. But we fought with it, and we got over it, and it's, I don't not yet know what I'm going to be doing after this, because I do know that trying to find musicians that work at that standard is really hard.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Most of them won't put the work in. We used to rehearse a lot. We would go in and spend days in the rehearsal rooms. We'd go like, I mean, we was fortunate because at the family house, his family house, they had a basement. So that was set up as a music. So we could do like, oh, you come over on Tuesday, we'll do a couple of hours vocal rehearsal. Come over on Monday, we'll do an afternoon. We were able to do that kind of drop thing because we live quite close together. And so we did. And every now and again we'd go, I want to MOT a song. A song maybe we might have been doing it for 5 years, but it's no, we'll change that bit, we'll shift that bit, we'll do this, and that through them we met Phil Brown. He did all our albums. I mean, we've got 10 albums out.
10 albums, yeah.
And Phil's engineered pretty well all bar one. And again, that's working with that man is a learning experience in itself. I don't know what he does, but it's magic.
He's a magic.
I know that bit.
Yeah.
My first meeting with him was when I'd gone in to do Lee Sankey.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Lee Sankey found him by dint of serious research. He said, I want this guy to engineer my album. I'm going to do an album. So he'd asked me to come in and do 2 tracks for him. So I turned up on the Sunday morning after a gig somewhere the night before. I was the first one there. Then Phil arrived. So I said, look, I've got the kit set up, but it's just straight off last night's gig. I haven't done a thing to it. Just let me know what you want. And he said, okay, yeah, I'll put a few mics up and we'll see. So he potted about the place. He put out a few mics, and then he went, okay, do you want to play around it a bit? So I played around it a bit, and he said, okay, come and have a listen. And I wandered into the recording studio and he played it back, and it was my drum kit. I hadn't heard my drum kit in the studio. I heard the studio sound.
Yeah, the studios, but not sure.
And all of that. This was my kit, the one I bought, and it sounded fabulous. And he'd done it in like 20 minutes.
Wow.
The time before that, the last time I met somebody in there, 4 hours.
Right. Yeah.
And this guy, and he just did it. So when we then Lee, because we were talking with Lee, and we said, well, we've got this band, and we need to knock a CD together because we've got to get some gigs and we need something to send out, And then Lee just looked and said, well, why don't you do a real album? And we said, well, we need a call. And he said, no, you're going to make one. Why not just make a real one? Do it properly.
Yeah.
We went, oh, I hadn't thought of that.
Right.
Okay, maybe we would. So we started planning, and we started, saving our pennies because we knew we were going to need to spend some money. And then who are we going to get to produce it and engineer it? And I said, well, there's this guy, Phil Brown, that did Lee's stuff. And Lee searched for him. I mean, he went through records and who did this, who did that until he found him. So I said, well, we could ask him. I don't know whether he would do it. I mean, he'd been doing Dido at the time before then, and it was that level. And I said, I don't know if we can afford him. Anyway, he said, send me some stuff. See what you think. So we sent him our stuff, and he came back and said, yeah, it's all right. I like this. We could do that. Yeah. And he's been doing it with us you know, ever since. We even got mentioned in his book, for God's sake, which is, you know, quite a, you know, you kind of stand up a wee bit there, you know.
That's right.
But we've
Yeah,
done, I mean,
yeah.
with the Spikedrivers, we've done, I dread to think how many gigs. We,
Yeah.
you know, the furthest north we ever played was in the Arctic Circle.
Wow. Okay.
And the furthest south we ever played was the Canary Islands, and pretty well all of Europe in between. I mean,
Yeah.
we played France a lot. We had an agent in Spain for quite a while. Sadly, they're no longer here. See, there's a bit of a theme going here: dead people.
Yeah.
But you know, I guess that's everybody's life story at some
Yeah.
stage.
Yeah.
And it's been a ride, I tell you. I mean, we were out last night. We did the Swanage Blues Festival
Mhm.
down in the southwest. We've done it a few times, and it was very emotional.
Yeah.
You had a packed house, and then this woman came up at the end. She bought some CDs. They still buy CDs here, believe it or not. I mean, some of them don't even have anything to play them on. They buy them to keep the bands going.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why, you know. And she said, I feel really sad. She said, I'd never seen you before,
Mm.
and I thought it was brilliant. And now I'm not going to see you again.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and you go, yeah, but unfortunately, you know, uh,
We
it
that's
is what it is. It is the best thing musically I have ever done. You know,
yeah.
I've done
Yeah.
some pretty good stuff.
Well, you still have your memories. They'll still have their
Yeah,
memories, you know.
there,
But
there, there will be, you know, we sat around, you know, um, I used to take a lot of photographs when we were out doing tours and things, and I'm starting to put together a bit of a farewell
yeah.
grouping, you know, and just looking at the different places we've
Right.
been and the people we've played with, and
Yeah.
you know,
Maybe a
because
maybe a book. Is there maybe a book in the make?
well, I mean, it's kind of thinking about that because our bass player Constance,
Mm-hmm.
this one might be of interest for you.
Hmm.
Our bass player Constance has published a book recently, and her book is it's a book called Black Box, but Constance is American. She's from LA.
Yeah.
And the reason she's in the UK is because back in 1983, this must have been, she became the bass player for Christian Death.
Oh, did she? Okay. Okay.
Yes. And they came to England and they recorded Catastrophe Ballet at Monmouth Studios at Rockfield in Wales.
Wales. Yeah.
Then they went to Paris to do gigs there and so on. Everything got a wee bit fraught, and I think largely from what I gather from other people, to do with the fact that she was the one appearing in most of the photographs, and Roz, who was the guy that was
Yeah.
he was the man, you know,
Right.
wasn't very happy with that. Anyway, they parted company. She got stranded and never actually went home.
No.
You know,
They
so
did.
she decided to write a book about the that 8 month tour. And I find it a bit of an eye opener. I mean, the woman can write. I got to give her a due. But anyway, that's out there. And it is. I mean, you know, from a purely personal point of view, I've kind of gone slightly backwards in the sense that Constance and I were having this conversation about, you know, yeah, okay, fine, but what are we going to do? You know, how is it going to be? Because she's become obsessed with bell ringing, church bell ringing, doing that 4 or 5 nights a week at the moment. And she said to me, look, she said, one thing she said, whatever, she said, can you please either join an Amdram group or go and get some acting lessons? Because every time we go to a show, you come out with your eyes shining and your head full of ideas and you start talking to me about the Albany Empire again. So can we just deal with that, please?
Right.
So I did. I
Yeah.
did an introduction to acting course earlier in the year, and quite literally tomorrow evening I start the intermediate.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to the Royal School of Speech and Drama here in London. It to me it's local. I can get there on a bus, you know, one bus ride. But it's one of the big ones, and they do some really good classes. I have no idea where it's going to go.
Yeah.
I have no idea whether it will go anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm just doing it.
You're putting yourself out there, though.
I'm
Yeah.
putting myself out there. I'm learning to play Bowron.
Yeah.
As I say, there's a little session over in Tottenham I sometimes go to, and do a bit of playing there. And I do more singing now. I mean, because I never used to sing, but we had this singing teacher called Melanie Harold. She's a kind of an expert in, if you really think you can't sing, she will prove to you that you're wrong.
Okay.
So she did. I was doing some computer work for her one time, and I just said to her one day, look, you've been here an hour, don't pay me, I'll swap you. Give me a singing lesson. And she got a voice out of me, and so I sing, and I sing with the band now, and I did, and I'd like to explore that a little bit more. You know, it's interesting having made a decision to stop something, which is what we did, that ideas that are in the back of your head that you had just put on the back burner because you're too busy,
Yeah.
you know,
Right. Well,
start to come forward.
yeah. Well, what do they say? One door closes, another opens, right?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
this is it. And it's like maybe some of these doors have been closed because you know full well you haven't got the time for it,
Right. Right.
you know, and then they're thinking, well, hang about, come the beginning of this new year, you're going to have the time for it, you know. And so, yeah, and also, you know, that whole thing of let's get it done now while you still can. Because as we've talked about throughout this, you know, you're getting people falling by the wayside the whole time. So yeah, we don't know, any of us, what's going to happen tomorrow.
No, no.
We really don't. And every now and again, you know, you get something that reminds me, you ought to take that seriously because it is a truism. It is one of these things that just, you know,
Yes. Yes.
we all figure it won't happen to us. Because of course we're all immortal, aren't we?
Aren't we? Aren't we? until it happens, right? Right.
Yeah, that's it. You know.
Well, Maurice, I want to best of luck on that, the
Thank you very
venture.
much.
And then
And
also,
thank you again for inviting me because it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
well, it is for me too, and that's why I do these, because
Yeah.
I enjoy them so much, hearing your stories, you know, and sharing those. So it's a no-brainer for me. You know, it
Right.
really is. It really is.
Good.
I get so much out of these. Well, also, and then your the final show you said in December.
Yeah, so December the 17th, that's going to
Okay.
be on our show. We're going to go back to a little club,
Okay.
tiny
Maybe
little club called Dusty's. It's in a
uh,
sports club, but they have been booking the band, well, since before Constance and I joined.
okay.
They've been booking the band for the best part of 30 years.
Any thoughts about recording that last show for CD?
We are going to try, we may try and do that. We
Okay.
may try and do that.
Yeah.
Could be, I don't know. Let's
Okay.
just
Okay.
we will allow that to happen. It's going to be tight. It's going to be small because
Okay.
it is.
Okay. Okay.
But you know, you
Yeah.
never.
Okay.
Never say never.
Never say never. Right? That's right. All right. All right, Maurice. I would shake your hand if I could, but you know,
Absolutely, I would yours too. You take
that,
well, go
all the
well,
all right.
and just keep on doing these interviews.
Yes.
There's
Yes.
lots of people out there that
Yes.
are interesting.
That's right. That's what
That's
it's about to
it.
me.
They're
It is, you know,
interesting.
it
You
is,
know.
you know, and that's what, and viewers find it interesting too. So that's what
Yeah.
I enjoy. Yeah. That's the
Yeah.
best part about it. Everybody has their story. That's
Yes,
what I think.
that's right.
Everybody has their
That's
story.
right. Well,
All right.
thank you for letting me share mine.
Oh, you're very, very welcome, Maurice. And all the best.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, thanks a lot. You take care now.